My cherished child, upon delving into the essence of this individual, I stumbled upon a reality they never anticipated anyone uncovering. They concealed it behind their smile, their self-assured demeanor, and their facade of being untouchable. Deep down, they truly believed their youth rendered them too inexperienced, too unqualified to enter your life bearing the weight of their affections. Yet, as I probed deeper into their innermost thoughts, it became increasingly clear, their fear did not stem from loving you, rather, it was rooted in their anxiety over whether they could ever be sufficient for you. They convinced themselves that the world would mock them should they divulge their feelings. They continually echoed the refrain, "I'm too young to feel this intensely." However, their heart persistently contradicted that assertion with every passing moment. This internal conflict has now reached a point where it is beyond their control, compelling them towards an inevitable realization. Stay with me, for what you are about to hear will challenge every assumption you hold about this person. There was a night, quiet, vacant, and haunting, when they finally faced the truth within themselves. Seated alone in a corner, they gazed at a memory they had kept buried for months. It was not a message, an image, or a gift, but rather the recollection of the moment they first sensed your presence affecting them in a way they could scarcely admit. They replayed that moment countless times, etching it into their subconscious like an indelible mark. Each reflection chipped away at them under the weight of unexpressed feelings. They believed that their age invalidated their emotions, something the world would dismiss as inconsequential. Yet the truth remains, their feelings for you matured far more swiftly than themselves. These emotions expanded beyond their comprehension, past their rationale, transcending their plans. Now, those emotions are beginning to break through the barriers they painstakingly erected. The exterior world perceives them as calm, jovial, occupied, and carefree. Unbeknownst to others, a tempest rages within, obliterating the distance they had maintained from you. They never intended for you to grasp how profoundly you have impacted them. Whenever they passed you, they forced themselves to feign indifference. Their silence was not frigid, it quivered with apprehension. Their distance was not an act of rejection, but rather a manifestation of fear. Their excuses were not indications of disinterest but desperate attempts to mask their quivering hands, their racing heartbeat, and the overwhelming realization that you were becoming the one facet of their life they could not command. The more they endeavored to conceal these feelings, the clearer it became to everyone around them, except you. Those close to them observed the way their eyes shifted at the mere mention of your name. Some even teased them about it, yet they responded with a smile that concealed a truth too heavy for them to articulate. What they failed to realize is that their efforts to hide this reality have now backfired. A perceptive individual in their life has witnessed the entire emotional struggle unfold, and it is this person who has brought you this revelation. The truth has begun to seep out, and they can no longer contain it. Recently, they engaged in an action they now regret, replaying it in their mind each night before sleep. They avoided you that day, turned away, refrained from responding, hesitated, adopted a distant demeanor, or acted as if they were uncaring. Yet none of that behavior was a true reflection of their heart, it stemmed from insecurity. They felt you deserved someone older, wiser, and more experienced, someone with an established life, rather than a soul still deciphering their emotions. They thought by stepping back, they were shielding you from potential disappointment. Instead, that distance catalyzed a realization of just how irreplaceable you have become. That single moment of withdrawal shattered something within them, causing them to feel the ache of absence before it materialized. They recognized the void of a future without you, and that fear burgeoned until it reached a breaking point. They recalled every word you spoke, every smile you offered, every instant your presence quieted their chaotic world. For the first time, they understood that age bore no relevance to the depth of their feelings. Their hesitation did not originate from immaturity, but from a love too immense for them to manage. Yet here lies the transformative moment, one neither of you anticipated. Recently, someone confronted them regarding their peculiar behavior. They posed a question that struck at the very core of their being: why are you evading what you truly feel? In that instant, the defenses they had erected crumbled. They opened up like never before, and words erupted from within, admissions. Fears, regrets, hopes, and longings spilled forth. They confessed their profound terror of appearing foolish, their belief that you perceived them as too youthful to be taken seriously, as someone unworthy of a soul as radiant as yours. Then, that wise voice imparted a revelation: age does not dictate the capacity of the heart, courage does. Those words pierced through the fog of fear, allowing them for the first time to envision a reality where you might view them differently, where feelings were not one-sided, where destiny had orchestrated something far deeper than they had ever dared to imagine. Following that conversation, an internal shift occurred within them. Their fear did not vanish, but rather it began to metamorphose into determination. They started to notice signs they had previously been too timid to acknowledge: the way you unknowingly sought them out in a crowd, the uplifted energy in your demeanor when they were near, the attentiveness in your gaze when they spoke. They began to comprehend that you had already created a space for them in your life without uttering a word. This realization carved a new ache within their chest, not one of pain, but rather the kind that accompanies a heart awakening for the first time. They started to prepare for the conversations they longed to have with you. In the confines of their mind, they rehearsed the words, envisioning the moment when they would muster the courage to express their truth. Each thought of it sent tremors through their hands and strained their voice into an almost inaudible whisper of your name. Yet, behind every apprehension lay a tenuous hope, vulnerable, quaking, but undeniably present, a hope that perhaps you felt similarly. Then came the pivotal moment that altered everything. Someone inadvertently mentioned your name in a manner that suggested you had also been contemplating them. It wasn't an overt declaration, nor was it a confession, and it certainly wasn't intended that way. However, it was enough to send a seismic jolt through their very being. Their breath hitched, their heart raced, and the world seemed to stand still. When they sought clarification, the individual who had spoken simply smiled enigmatically and walked away. That singular moment has lingered in their thoughts ever since, leaving them to wonder whether it was mere coincidence or if destiny had subtly revealed a hidden truth. Since that day, Clarity has eluded them, they find it increasingly difficult to function. Every thought circles back to you, every breath resembles a countdown to a life-altering revelation. They are torn between the urge to confront the truth and the desire to escape from it. They stand at the crossroads of fear and yearning, oscillating between hesitation and fate. Yet, here lies the unexpected twist, something they are crafting in secret. They are psyching themselves up to confront you, not casually or by happenstance, but in a moment where everything else diminishes, leaving only their truth and your heart exposed. They have composed a message they wish to convey, envisioned the scenario, and rehearsed the phrases. They have braced themselves for the possibility that you may not reciprocate their feelings. Yet, they have also prepared for the hope that perhaps you might. This lingering possibility has kept them awake, night after night. They are poised to embrace a truth they once believed was too intimidating to grasp. They are ready to shatter the fears that have silenced them for so long. They intend to choose bravery over doubt. They are resolved to look you directly in the eyes and articulate the words that have burned within them for far too long. Their heart can no longer endure silence. My dear child, what unfolds now is the moment where trepidation transmutes into a far more mighty force, something they never thought they could feel. After days of grappling with their emotions, they experienced a night when the weight of unspoken truths became unbearable. Standing before a mirror, they gazed at their own reflection and realized that they were no longer a mere child, unprepared or unworthy, but rather a heart brimming with emotions too profound to remain concealed. They perceived the love they had been denying, the longing they had suppressed, the hope they had attempted to extinguish. As their hands trembled while gripping the edge of the table, they softly uttered your name in the desolate room. This whisper was not merely a confession, it marked the moment their soul embraced what their mind had been evading. They recognized that age was not the inhibitor, fear was the true foe, and fear was beginning to wane. Remain close, for their next decision is the turning point that destiny has eagerly awaited. That night, as they stepped outside into a hushed atmosphere, the world felt suspended. They gazed at the sky, burdened by the weight of countless unspoken messages, missed opportunities, and unsaid words. The stillness heightened their emotions, their heartbeat reverberated like distant thunder against their ribs. The sky seemed to observe, listen, and wait. In that tranquil moment, they made a silent pledge. They would no longer flee. They would no longer conceal. They would not permit insecurity to rob them of something that had already taken root in their soul. They vowed that the next time they encountered you, they would stand unwaveringly before you, free of trembling, poised against retreat, allowing no fear to smother their truth. This vow has haunted them, propelling them toward a moment they realize they can no longer postpone. Yet, there lies an element you have yet to perceive, an unseen force diligently shaping their narrative. The very person who witnessed their admission, who listened as they struggled to articulate their feelings, has been keenly observing their transformation. They have sensed the alterations in their demeanor, quieter footsteps, distant stares, a gaze lingering on their phone, a blend of yearning and trepidation. They have recognized how profoundly your absence influences them, even more than they are willing to admit. This attentive observer has begun to construct a clearer understanding of the truth. They have discerned that their feelings are no fleeting whim but something life-altering. Aware of the fragility of their courage, this observer has taken it upon themselves to gently guide them toward the destined moment unfolding before them. They have initiated subtle conversations about you, leaving cryptic hints, gauging reactions, seeking to assess their readiness to step into their truth. Each mention of your name causes a perceptible shift in their demeanor, awakening an intensity that hints at the approaching moment. Unbeknownst to you, this observer has contemplated reaching out to you, aiming to forge a connection that would prepare the ground for the inevitable. They feel a protective instinct toward the one who loves you, acknowledging how profoundly this emotion has transformed, softened, and strengthened them. They recognize your significance to them, yet they fear intruding too soon, pushing too hard, or unintentionally disclosing feelings that should originate from the heart of the one who harbors them. Therefore, they have opted for a subtler approach, guiding them while allowing destiny to unfold organically. They have urged them to dispel their self-doubt, reminding them that age has never hindered souls from recognizing one another. They have highlighted moments when you looked at them with unexpected tenderness. Gradually, these reminders have cultivated a new courage within them, one now reaching its zenith. But pay close attention, for this next part holds the spark that ignites everything. They are prepared to unveil something, a sentiment they penned for you in a moment of overwhelming emotion. It is not an extensive letter, nor is it a dramatic confession. It is a singular sentence encapsulating every heartbeat they have concealed within. Late one night, seated in the warm glow of a lamp they had neglected to extinguish, they wrote with trembling hands and eyes brimming with emotion. Folding it carefully, they hid it away, awaiting the opportune moment. That sentence embodies their truth, their fears, and their hopes intricately woven together. It is the key to unlocking all they have held back. They intend to recite it the next time they find themselves before you, envisioning the moment, the silence, the shared breath, the meeting of gazes, the world pausing for that instant. They contemplate the impact of those words. Will destiny open its arms or seal them in that fleeting second? This is the pivotal moment they are preparing for, resting on its outcome. Remarkably, they are closer to it than you can imagine. My cherished child, the moment poised to recalibrate the very fabric of their existence approaches swiftly. Each day they awaken, believing there is ample time to defer the truth, to conceal their feelings a little longer, convinced that silence will somehow safeguard them from the weight of destiny. Yet destiny has been orchestrating the arrangement of their reality. They feel it in the alteration of their thoughts, in the tightening of their chest when they envision encountering you, in the incessant replay of conversations that should have been articulated. They no longer perceive themselves as too youthful. For the depth of their emotions transcends their years, their souls carry sentiments that defy temporal bounds. Every signal surrounding them urges them toward a moment where they can no longer pretend that their silence is benign. The resonance of their truth has grown too insistent to remain hidden. Remain close, for what comes next illustrates the moment they choose courage over fear. They have begun to notice subtle shifts in your energy, delicate, quiet, nearly imperceptible to most, yet unmistakable to someone who has wholly attuned to your essence. The way you hesitate before speaking when they are near, the softness in your gaze upon catching them lost in thought, and the weighty silence that envelopes them in your presence all reveal themselves as fragments of a language gradually becoming familiar. They exercise restraint, yet an inner voice urges them to consider the possibility that your heart may harbor feelings of its own. This voice has become increasingly persistent, an echo they can no longer silence, guiding them deeper into the truth they once thought themselves too young to confront. Now, this whisper has blossomed into certainty, a mix of fear and comfort. They remain uncertain of your feelings but are convinced that you harbor something. Herein lies the twist that the universe has so artfully crafted, making it feel surreal. Recently, an individual who shares a profound closeness with them has begun to perceive their emotional turmoil with unprecedented clarity. This person, characterized by a quiet demeanor and keen observation skills, possesses an intuitive understanding that reveals every subtle change, every moment of uncertainty, and every fleeting glance meant to go unnoticed. They have observed the way the individual's hands tremble at the sight of their name on a screen, the frequency with which they check for messages even when none arrive, and how their gaze wanders to spots where the other might appear, as if drawn by an invisible force. Rather than deriding or belittling their emotions, this observer has resolved to offer support in a manner entirely unexpected. They often repeated the sentiment, "I'm too young to feel so deeply." Yet, their heart consistently contradicted that declaration with each passing moment. This internal struggle has escalated to a point where it is now uncontrollable, driving them toward an unavoidable acknowledgement. Remain with me, for what you are about to learn will challenge your perceptions of this individual. There came an evening, solemn, desolate, and haunting, when they finally confronted the truth within themselves. Sitting alone in a secluded corner, they recalled a memory they had buried for months. This was not a message, an image, or a gift. It was the moment they first felt your presence impact them in ways they could hardly admit. They revisited that moment repeatedly, engraving it into their mind like a permanent scar. Each reflection eroded them beneath the weight of unvoiced emotions. They believed their youth rendered their feelings invalid, thoughts they assumed the world would dismiss as trivial. Yet, the reality is that their feelings for you matured far quicker than their understanding. These emotions grew beyond their grasp, surpassing their logic and overriding their plans. Now, those feelings are beginning to surge forth, breaching the defenses they painstakingly built. To the outside world, they present a facade of calm, cheerfulness, and carefree engagement. However, unbeknownst to others, a tempest brews within, dismantling the distance they had tried to maintain from you. They never wished for you to perceive the extent of your impact on their life. As they passed you, they forced themselves to appear indifferent. Their silence was not cold, it trembled with trepidation. The distance they maintained wasn't an act of rejection, but rather a manifestation of deep-seated fear. Their excuses were not signs of disinterest but rather desperate attempts to hide their trembling hands, racing heart, and growing realization that you had become an irreplaceable part of their life. The more they tried to conceal these emotions, the more transparent it became to those around them, except you. People close to them noticed how their eyes would shift at the mere mention of your name. Some even teased them about it, yet they responded with a smile that masked a truth too burdensome to express. Unbeknownst to them, their attempts to obscure this reality have backfired. A discerning individual in their life has observed the entirety of this emotional struggle unfold, and it is this person who has brought you this revelation. The truth has begun to seep through, and they can no longer contain it. Recently, they undertook an action they now regret, replaying it in their mind each night before sleep. On that day, they avoided you, turned away, refrained from responding, hesitated, adopted a distant demeanor, or acted as if they were indifferent. Yet none of this behavior truly reflected their heart. It emerged from a place of insecurity. They believed you deserved someone older, wiser, and more experienced, someone with a well-established life, rather than a person still navigating their emotions. They thought that by stepping back, they were shielding you from potential disappointment. Instead, that withdrawal led to the realization of just how irreplaceable you have become. That single moment of detachment shattered something within them, making them acutely aware of the ache of absence before it even manifested. They acknowledged the void of a future absent of you, and that fear burgeoned until it reached a breaking point. They recalled every word you spoke, every smile you offered. Every moment your presence soothed their chaotic world. For the first time, they grasped that age bore no relevance to the depth of their emotions. Their hesitation did not arise from immaturity but from a love too vast for them to fathom. Yet here lies the pivotal moment, one neither of you anticipated. Recently, someone confronted them regarding their unusual behavior. They posed a question that struck at the very core of their being: why are you avoiding what you genuinely feel? In that instant, the defenses they had built collapsed. They opened up like never before, and words spilled forth, admissions, fears, regrets, hopes, and desires came rushing out. They confessed their profound fear of looking foolish. Their belief that you viewed them as too young to be taken seriously, an individual unworthy of a soul as luminous as yours. They are gently guiding the individual, bolstering their strength and affirming the authenticity of their feelings, despite the apprehension surrounding verbal expression. However, what remains unknown to the individual is that this observer recently encountered something that profoundly altered their perspective. They came across an inconspicuous note, a single sentence encapsulating a truth that binds everything together. Without reading it, they gleaned its significance through the trembling hands that clutched the paper, the emotion reflected in the individual's eyes. It conveyed everything. They recognized that this experience transcended a mere crush or fleeting emotion. It represented a deep-rooted connection that had quietly taken hold. For the first time, the observer comprehended the extraordinary nature of their bond, imbued with a weight and intensity as if destiny had intertwined their paths long before either had taken notice. This realization prompted the observer to step back, not out of disinterest, but from a place of reverence. They acknowledged the emergence of something sacred, simultaneously delicate and powerful, that necessitated both parties to willingly embrace it. Now, the moment approaches that draws them closer to the individual than ever before. They have begun rehearsing their truth, not through spoken words but by cultivating courage. They envision a scenario where they stand before the other, not as someone naive but as one who has matured through emotional depths. In their imagination, the world hears to a hush around them, as their eyes lock in an uninterrupted exchange. They picture the deep breath they will take before finally articulating the statement encapsulated in that small piece of paper. Their heart quickens at the thought, palms becoming clammy, voice quaking. Yet, they persist in their practice, imagining and preparing for the pivotal moment that will alter everything. There will be no turning back once the truth is unveiled. Heralding a new beginning regardless of whether it culminates in a destined union or a lesson etched in memory. Here, however, lies the decisive twist. Their conviction that delay is no longer tenable has ignited a fire within. An undeniable certainty and relentless urge compel them to cease hiding. They have begun to formulate minor plans, take measured steps, and create opportunities to finally speak freely. A specific venue, time, and atmosphere have been chosen, fostering the courage needed to stand before the person who stirs such deep feelings. They are aware that the outside world may not grasp the depth of their emotions, and that some may offer judgment, yet none of that holds significance anymore. What truly matters is the truth they have borne silently for too long, the bond they cannot refute, and the destiny that inexorably draws their paths nearer with each passing moment.